Alright. Hi, I'm Mohammed.
And I'm Matt.
And we are the Purple Cobras.
Alright, I did most of the research and I tested most of the loops and most of the script.
I made the music files and I constructed most of the loops, and this is our project.
Let's show you what we did. Alright, we are the Purple Cobras and this is our automatic piano player project.
So first we just asked you to input the files. Pretty simple. If you entered one file to input, we let you input one file. If you said you wanted to input two files for right and left hand playing, we let you input two files. We also asked you in the early beginning to ask you to assign a value called flow, which will either allow you to play a continuous stream of music or have pauses later on. It won't come into play yet, but we'll describe it later.
Alright, frequency conversion. In the top part of the script, we have the very first octaves of each note, which are given certain frequencies. These frequencies will be used later to be converted based on your notes, note type, octaves, amplitudes, and note length, which are actually given within these arrays X, F, M, I, and U. Alright, X denotes what type of note is as an A, B, C, D, E, F, G. F denotes as the type of note such as sharp, flat, and normal. M denotes it as the octaves within each note. I is the amplitude, and U represents the size of it, basically if it's a full, quarter, half, eighth, blah, blah, blah.
So basically I wanted to clarify here that notes is the array created from whatever you read before, and the problem is that was the string, and because we want to operate on the numbers within that string, we have to convert anything that was a number or was supposed to be a number into a number. So basically what we did was using these three loops for the amplitude, note length, and what was the last one?
Last one was the note length. The one in between there.
Amplitude, right? Amplitude, yeah. So we basically converted all those values to actual numbers so we could use them in the following calculations. Basically, if there was a break, however, like an E, a K, or an A,
it will denote it as 0, which will be used for later calculations. You find a marker, a limit, or a boundary. Alright. Now in these other loops we have, this is a string comparison of if you find the note A, we're going to use the octaves. So we have our original A times a certain equation, which is equal to 2 to the power of the octave that is listed minus 1. That will give you the frequency of that note based on its octave.
Yeah, we ran into a small problem that if you hit the note B, it was also possible that that was a break. So we compared the element after that, and if that was an R, then obviously that wasn't the note, it was a break, and we made that 0 once again. So after converting all the octaves,
we had to work with sharps, flats, and normals.
So here's a loop for sharps, flats, and normals. This basically took the frequencies already created for the octaves and took that frequency and converted it to the proper
frequency using a similar equation as in 2 to the power of y minus 1, but except the other arbitrary numbers are dependent on basically what is its scale, as in if it's an A, B, C, D, and then
so if it's a sharp, we use these equations per note. If it's a flat, we use these equations per note. Anyway, continue on. So
basically, what's high frequency basically means you're gonna have a note that has a really high frequency. Well, when you play that at the same amplitude of a note that's a low frequency, a higher frequency note is going to sound a lot louder than a lower frequency note, even though they have the same amplitude. So in order to compensate for this, we have, if the frequencies are within certain boundaries, we're going to multiply our amplitude by a given number, so lower the volume of that, so they basically sound the same, even though their volumes aren't technically the same.
Yep, so we did that using logical indexing. Wherever certain frequencies were within a certain range, we took those indexes and we multiplied those by either half or 0.45 or whatever, just to lower the volume.
Now we're going to have beat emphasis. Right here we have row co equals find k equals 0. Here we're going to find where k is equivalent to 0. That means there was a pause or as if a break, which will be used later in further loops to find out where the break was. Then we can use that to separate the breaks between the actual notes.
Yep, so basically we find where the breaks were, as Matthew said, and using that knowledge, where all the zeros were, so where all the breaks were, we made measures between these zeros, between the breaks. And right here, the first node of the measure, we emphasized that by multiplying by 8. The third node of the measure, we multiplied that by multiplying. We emphasize that by multiplying by 8. So that was the beat emphasis.
We got more inputs such as tempo. Tempo is going to be input as in how fast you want to play. If you want to play twice as fast, you say 2. And if you want to play half as fast, you say 0.5. Now we have Michel, which is our input for one of our attack and decay inputs.
And that will determine which decay to use.
By saying 1, 2, or 3, which will be explained later.
Right, so now we hit attack and decay. So basically, for our first method, we used De Leon's method, which was pretty complicated. So we mostly just input what he did, except what we did was the attack and decay scheme that would determine the waveform for each array. We made that work for multiple types of frequencies, so that it would match the frequency that we wanted it to for the note, so that we could actually multiply it element by element without getting an error. So that's what we did here. We matched the two samples, number of samples per note, it's the number of samples for that attack and decay scheme, and multiplied them here, and we concatenated them right here. And basically what this is that
if f of x is equal to 0, which we stated earlier is equal to a break, then instead we have b equals just b. So in other words, it won't note that character down.
That's also, yeah, if flow is equal to 1, so you want to play continuously, and fx equals to 0, but there's a break there, you don't want to do anything. However, if there was a break there and flow was not equal to 1, you want to put a 2 there, just as a marker, so we know that there's a break there.
Because the sign of anything can only go up to 1, so 2's obviously.
Yeah, so obviously 2 does not belong there, it's a break. So, continuing on with attack and decay, the next two methods were the same method, but we just used the fading in, fading out scheme like we learned in class.
And we just changed the size of the attack and decay, which actually made them sound differently.
Yeah, basically. So we just did attack was 0 to 1, and then decay was 1 to 0, and we just defined, how long do you want the decay to be, how long do you want the attack to be. And method 3 differed only in that how long attack was and how long decay was, right here and right there.
Yeah, moving on.
So the actual playing of the music. So now it depends on how you put flow. If you put flow is equal to 2, so you want to play with breaks. If you remember, we put 2's everywhere in the array that was to be played to show that there was a break there. So basically, we ended up going to this loop where you would create measures in a similar way we did the beat emphasis, using this little thing here, row column equals find b equal 2.
So wherever equal 2, it will basically say, okay, we found 2, let's play in between what was between those 2's. So you're not playing 2, 2 is acting as the boundary, and then it would show the measure between those 2 and play it.
Yep, so basically first is 1 after 2, last is 1 before the 2, and you just get rid of possible not real numbers, which you got several times, and you'd plot that and you'd play it. And then what we did was we had pause, so you have the chance to hear one measure at a time.
When you press a key, then it would play the next measure.
Exactly. And then if you had to, if flow is equal to 1, here, if you remember, we didn't put any 2's there. We just left it the same.
So just play continuously without you having to use the pause function.
Yep. So just use display sound or whatever, and that would be the entire function at once. Yeah, the second half is basically redoing the first half, except for the second note file. And really, all we did was once we had the second note files array, we call that B1. We added them together. We added to the old array, called it B2, and played it the same way we played the first time. Now for a demonstration to prove our project works. So I'm going to load up our script, plus start. How many files do you want to play? Let's play both of them. And right hand, Zelda R dot text, Zelda base L dot text. Let's play with pauses. It's not in 4x4 measure, so enter 2. How fast do you want that song to play? Let's play at the same speed. Use some different methods of attack and decay. And there you go. It plays measure by measure. And that's our project. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.